The race to 5G is on, and the battle for talent is getting fierce. Welcome to 5G Talent Talk with Carrie Charles, a podcast dedicated to helping you face the future workforce head on. Navigate this challenging talent landscape with innovative strategies to attract, retain, and engage people in this new world of work. Only here on 5G Talent Talk with Carrie Charles, CEO of Broadstaff Talent Solutions.
Hi, and welcome to 5G Talent Talk. I'm Carrie Charles, your host, and I am so happy that you have joined me today. I have with me a special guest. We are going to talk about this new world of work. Things have changed, and there's a lot of leaders that are out there wondering, how do I operate in this new talent landscape with retention, with engagement? I mean, we have so many questions now. And so I have with me today Carolina Milanesi. She's the president and principal analyst of creative strategies, and she is the founder of the Heart of Tech, which we're going to hear about in just a second. Carolina, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I always enjoy our conversations about talent, and it's never been more critical today to talk about talent.
You are so right. So Carolina, you have an interesting past and how you got to where you are today. And I cannot wait to hear more about the Heart of Tech. So can you tell me more about what led you here today?
I'm by trade, I'm an industry analyst. That means that I provide advice to technology companies on their products, their go-to-market, their competitive landscape. And as I've been doing this for a very long time, I was a VP at Gartner for 14 years. And then I left and went and led the US business for Kantar. And I joined Creative Strategies back in, actually, I just did my 6th birthday on Monday with Creative Strategies. I realized through this 20 plus year of my career as a woman in tech, even if, dotted line, that there's still a lot of work that needs to be done when it comes to diversity and inclusion, when it comes to really leading more of the heart of tech. And so in 2019, that's what I did. I created a company that focuses on ESG and CSR. So really looking at the impact of technology on society, looking at diversity and inclusion, sustainability, and governance, talking about ethos and values, and really a need to start thinking about technology with, yes, they can entertain, yes, they can be cool, but it also can change lives. And so putting more of a focus on that.
So tell me more about the Heart of Tech. Who are your clients, your customers, and how do you serve them?
Yeah, I deal with large technology companies, and I work with them on their ESG strategy, so environmental, social, and responsibility across the board. And so, we talk about both internally and externally. How do you become a more diverse and inclusive company? How do you work with your partners and ecosystem and customers? Are you, what is your strategy for sustainability, both from a product perspective and services perspective? How do you enable your customers to be more sustainable? And really trying to go from what I feel a few years ago was a lot of marketing and very little substance, to now having, and by all means, I don't mean because of me, but in general, I am delighted that the industry is really, putting money to change the way that they're thinking about their products. They have changed their priorities. And, as I'm sure we'll talk about, this is critical, not just for their business, but it's critical to attract talent nowadays. Younger generations are driven by purpose. And so I think is absolutely critical. And that's what I do.
So how has the workforce changed in the last 2 years from your view?
How has it not changed?
Right, exactly.
Well, clearly we have become more accustomed to what you and I are doing now, which is connecting through a camera and spending time trying to be productive or connecting in more a social level. I do think that the biggest changes that I've seen that are applying to the talent is really being a reassessment of what matters to them. And I know that there are a lot of leaders out there that brush this off with well, everybody has a mortgage to pay, or everybody has to think about sending the kids to college. So I'm sure that at the end of the day, it's all about money. It isn't anymore. Of course, people need to pay bills and they want to be paid fairly. And actually, this is becoming more of a topic, right? I was saying the other day that talking about money has become way more natural to the younger generation than to my generation. It was taboo to talk about how much you were getting paid. Now people do that. But money aside, there's a more of a focus and a need to balance their life. And I always say that finding balance is utopia. And I think that you end up driving yourself crazy. What people want is a blended life, right? The ability to one day be 80% work and 20% family, and the other way switch it around and, have 80% family and 20% work. You're still getting work done, but you're doing it at your pace and with your kind of criteria of what matters in mind. So that blended life has definitely pushed people to want more flexibility in work. And yes, sometimes that means hybrid work, but it also means flexibility from a tool set perspective that you're using, from a device perspective. So technology flexibility, as well as where do I work? How many hours do I work? Do I work a 4-day week and not a 5-day week? Those things have now become a top priority for employees.
So what do leaders need to do differently, or how do they need to think differently so they can really, be successful with this new shift in the workforce?
I think that the first thing is to really think about the change in equilibrium, if you like, between managers and leaders and talent overall. So, we used to think that all the power was in the managers and the leaders. Not really anymore. Things have changed. If you think about the big impact of social media and how you see very often disgruntled employees going out and voicing their dissatisfaction with what an organization is doing, that does more damage to you than you maybe realize, because it's not just about your talent and retaining and acquiring talent, but it's also about your customers, maybe, questioning your values and your ethics. So that's one thing, is that power shift that we've seen. The other one is that, we used to poll our employees once a year, and, you go out, you do the big survey, right? Asking all sorts of questions about how happy you are and you're not. Well, that's no longer the case. You need to keep in touch with your employees in more way than one. So yes, surveys, those are really useful. There's a lot of different solutions that just help you every day. It's just a question of a smiley or a frowny, to just really feel the pulse of where everybody's at. And I think if you do it on a regular basis and then you analyze the data, we are in the era of 5G and data. That's what you have. You have abundance of data that you can look at, and you can then extrapolate, your strategy as to how you can do things differently, how you can cater to your employee better. It's been quite fascinating to me for many years now how, organizations, especially B2C organizations that are so focused on customers, don't think that employees are customer. If you're thinking about the role of IT is, that's what the IT manager has to do. It has to serve their customers, which are the employees. And yet we don't think about people like that.
So much just golden nuggets and everything that you just said. You mentioned earlier about something about the generations, the new generations in the workforce. So how do we keep this, these younger people, generations, how do we keep them engaged and retain them, just keep them employed with us?
I think that has changed as well during the pandemic. I think, especially if I look at tech and tech in Silicon Valley, a lot of the benefits that younger employees were getting, it was about having the gym at home. It was, on campus, because they didn't have it at home. It was about the cafeteria, the free food, that all the glitz and blitz that you can have on campus. Now, having been away for 2+ years from those from that campus, they found different ways to cater to that. And so looking at the benefits again and reassessing that, and maybe it's not about the gym on campus, maybe it's to pay a subscription for them to something that they can do at home or somewhere else. So reassessing what was valuable to your workforce before and after. But as I mentioned earlier, younger generation are really more purpose-driven employees. They want to know that they're making a difference. They want to know what the company stands for, and that what they personally stand for is aligned with what the company stands for. With that, they want an organization that is supporting diversity and inclusion and social justice and equity, both from their products, but also from an employee standpoint. I also think that there's a desire to be more in touch with management and having more regular conversation and touch points, and really feel that they can contribute to that conversation and they're part of the decision process, which leads to wanting more transparency and better communication. My generation was used to, you get told what to do and you just do it. I mean, honestly, that's how it was, right? You don't question it. Yeah. You might secretly hope that, especially when you're in a large organization, things change very quickly. It's like, I'm not even going to worry about it, because in 6 months we'll be different again. You just go with the flow.
Exactly. Things change so rapidly now, especially in technology. With diversity inclusion, where are we now? And, where are companies falling short today?
Wow. How much time do we have?
I know, right? That's a big question. Just hit a couple points.
I think that at least diversity and inclusion is on everybody's agenda. Everybody's coming at it from a different point. There are companies just getting started to talk about it and actually taking steps. And there are companies that have been on this path for a few years. Sadly, if you're looking at the numbers, right, especially the large organization produce a diversity and inclusion report every year. You look at the numbers, and the numbers are moving very, very slowly. But I always say to my customers, if it was an easy problem to solve, we would have solved it by now, because this is going on for a long time. And the issue is that it's not just one thing. You can't turn a switch, right? Flip a switch and things are going to change. You need to think about the pipeline, but the pipeline is not an excuse to say that you cannot be diverse today, right? You're not have to wait for the generation of teens that is in school now to be able to be diverse. But certainly, fostering a love for technology, math, engineering, and everything that comes with it at a younger age is going to get people interested. But more importantly is when they get to college level, that what you do today in your organization is going to get people to decide where they're going to go from a career perspective, right? I cannot be what I cannot see. That is very simple. If I don't see women in leadership roles, if I don't see people of color in leadership roles, I'm not going to go in that organization and think that my career, I will be the first one. And yes, sometimes you are, but it's less enticing than not going into an organization that is showcasing the talent and the diversity that they have at the C level. So acquiring talent, and so that's the diversity from a hiring perspective. But then inclusion has to be core, because if you hire and then you don't include, those people won't stay. And that's the key to it, right? Is making your organization more inclusive, having more voices, having more people at the table, making sure that not from a performative perspective, but because you understand that having more diversity of thoughts, more diversity of experience will get you to serve your customers better, will get your business to be more successful. And I always think about and say to customers that you need to think about diversity and inclusion the same way as you think about profitability and your books, right? Is an ongoing work that will reflect. And so it's not like you have a chief diversity officer and a chief financial officer. It's not with a chief financial officer when you're doing great and you're in the green, kind of goes off and goes on holiday, right? You're keep on looking
Right.
at your finances, you keep on working, and it has to be the same thing. It's not a side project, it's really a pillar of your organization.
Pillar of your organization. You can't be what you can't see. That is, I love that. I'm gonna steal that one, but I'll give you credit. I love that. I love it. So I'm a business leader. I have a company. Okay. Let's look, for the next 5 years. What does this new workplace look like? What do I need to know now in order to build the right workplace so I can attract and retain the highest and the best talent?
The first thing is that you're going to face a very diverse workforce, right? Is we have 5 different generations right now in the workforce, which means that you cannot think that you cater to all of them in the same way, right? One size fits all is not the approach that you need to take, because people are different needs. And this we've seen every day now with conversation or hybrid work. Some people want to come back. Some people want to stay home. Look at why they want to do certain things, right? One thing that is critical is people are really worried that staying home, which is where they want to stay, right? They want to stay remote, will not give them the same opportunity than going into the office.
Yes.
Because we've been trained that my manager has to see me 7:00 in the morning, 9:00 at night in the office, even if the manager leaves at 5, right? There's always that fear that if people don't see you work, you're not working. And we need to change that. We need to change that from a cultural perspective. And so, have your managers work remote. Make sure that the way that we start both hiring and then rewarding employees change. Look at, what jobs really require a college education and which don't. Look at how many years experience. I always laugh and it's like, I could never go back into a job now because they ask you to be, a graduate and have 5 years of experience. Like, when am I going to do that?
Right.
It's just so be sure that, when you're looking to fill your roles and write your job specification, you're inclusive. You look at really the needs from education perspective. I think more and more the skill sets that people have rather than the knowledge are going to be important. A lot of the things that we've been doing now are going to be fulfilled by technologies like AI. And so the skill set that you're looking for changes constantly. Give the opportunity to your talent that you have as part of your inclusion strategy, the opportunity to upskill or reskill. Look at their strength as an individual and see if there's actually maybe a role that suits them better and will get them more engaged. Don't have somebody come in and for 5 years, 6 years that they're there doing the same thing when you can see that the passion is not quite what it used to be at the beginning. So really be in tune with reskilling, upskilling, inclusion from a culture perspective. and understand more what drives people. And I know it sounds all touchy-feely, but it's not. And one thing that I truly, honestly think is key, and a kind of a superpower that managers and leaders will have to earn, learn, get adjusted to, I don't know if there is a course, is empathy. That
Yes.
is the superpower that leaders will have from now on. That is something that we didn't used to value, I think. You were taught that as a leader, you weren't supposed to listen, right? You talk, you're the one who's supposed to tell people what to do. But that's no longer the case. Empathy would be a critical skill from a leadership perspective.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. So in your work with companies, what are some of the common mistakes that you see? And, maybe you can throw in a couple of solutions there as well.
One I alluded to earlier, which is that there are companies that think that they can hire their way out of lack of diversity. And that's not how you're going to do it. If you just hire and you don't then create a culture of inclusion, you're not going to keep those people. So that's one thing. The other one is the performative part of the role that they have. So they might have very good benefits, or they do things that are for the moment, like big events, or they have people coming and talking about sustainability or inclusion or whatever the hot topic of the moment is, but they don't follow up with really the structure of the company and what really is needed to make a clear difference to people. The last one that I think is absolutely critical is middle management. Middle management is often forgotten. And we've seen in surveys that we've done, but there was a survey a study that Microsoft just published a couple of weeks ago that also talked about how middle management right now, especially, is in so much pressure because they hear more clearly what the talent want, but they don't then are empowered by the leaders to deliver on that. Mm-hmm. So never forget the power of that middle management, because that's where inclusion and retention really starts. We've empowered employees during the pandemic to be way more independent than we've ever let them be before, right? Because they weren't in the office. They had to make decisions about their setup, their technology and everything else. Continue to trust that they can do that they can be empowered to make decisions that benefit their team. And I think that will really help drive a better culture.
I think that companies really need to focus, and this, again, I'm very passionate about this topic too, focusing on middle management, right? Because those are the people with, boots on the ears to the ground.
Absolutely.
They know what's going on, they hear it, and they make the most difference and have the most impact because they're working closely with these people every day. People don't leave jobs, they leave managers. And so I think when companies are looking at, okay, what kind of leadership development, training, coaching do I need? They should really focus on that middle layer of management, and also, most importantly, new managers and new leaders, and anybody placed in that position, they've got to have training and development, because that's who's working closely with the people who are either going to stay or leave.
100%. Absolutely.
Right. Let's look future. Let's get our crystal balls out and let's talk about the future. So what trends are you seeing in your world? And, maybe some challenges or roadblocks that you see ahead. I want to kind of get your, access your inner futurist right now.
There's so much going on, to be honest with you, right now in technology. One is the fact that our workflows are going to be more and more and more digital, right? So we as again, in linking to hybrid work, as we figure out this world where, it doesn't matter where we work, is how we work. And that's how I talk about hybrid work. It's not where, but how. You need to realize that everything that we do is now linked to digital world, and we haven't quite figured out all the etiquettes around that, right? The how we actually do the pre and post meeting, how do we share the information. But I think that the more we think about digital workflows, the more we realize how much we are dependent on technology. Yes. And that there are technologies that are now, as much as I hate this term, infused with AI, that do things for us, right? That I don't have to worry about, right? My email that surfaced something is like, well, you said you were going to reply to Carrie 2 days ago, but you haven't, little nudge, things like that take away from, before it was like a PA that would tell me that, right? Now is the machine. So the balance between, or the relationship, if you like, between technology and human. I know that there's a lot of anxiety around AI and automation as well from people, depending on which line of business you are. Obviously, the more you're a knowledge worker, the least worry you are about where AI and automation in particular is going to come in. But if you work on a factory floor, obviously there's big concern there. And I think for me is really understanding, and from a leadership perspective, explaining what the opportunities are, what is automation going to do for the company, and making sure then that the people that used to do a task that now is performed by a computer or a robot will have the opportunity to get reskilled, retrained, and repurposed within the organization. And I think that's why I was talking about reskilling and upskilling as a way to retain talent and also discover, new abilities that the talent that you have already has, and not thinking that people are disposable. Don't think that. I think right now, not many people think that, just because of how hard it is to get talent. But don't say, well, I'm going to just cycle people through, because as much as the skills and the knowledge are important, the knowledge of your business is important. And so that's one of the things that I always talk about for the older generation, which I'm part of. Within
I am too. It's okay.
Within a company, right? That, I might not know all the digital stuff that you guys do, young Gen Zers and millennials, but I know the company. And so, make sure that you enable those connections where the people that know the business and the company work hand in hand and side by side, the people that have more of the, they're more digital native and understand technology. And then I would say lastly is, with everything that we have learned during the pandemic, my big desire, I guess, is not to waste it. We've had so much innovation over the past 2 years from a technology perspective. Stay on that path to make your business better, to make your employees more engaged and happier. And if you do that, productivity will come, success will come. Don't focus just on, let's make them more productive. Focus on, let's make them happier and more engaged, because if they are happier and more engaged, they will be more productive and your company will be more successful.
Carolina, you are just full of knowledge and information. And I mean, I feel like that, that I would just love to be one of your clients, right?
Oh, bless you.
We're not big enough just yet, but it's, I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show and, for sharing just everything that's going to help the audience and leaders and companies right now. I think it's just, this is such needed information. So thank you so much for coming on. Tell me, please, how can people reach you? I'm sure there's a lot of people in the audience now that's saying, I want to get a hold of her. I want to connect with her. So how do we do that?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I know how passionate you are about talent and the future of talent. So it was a delight when you asked me to come on. As far as where people can find me, mostly they can find, more consistently, they can find me on Twitter. I am getting better at LinkedIn. On Twitter, I am Caro, CARO_Milanesi, MILANESI. I am on Instagram under the same name. And then on LinkedIn, I'm Carolina Milanesi. And I have a weekly almost column on Forbes. And my website is creativestrategies.com and theheartoftech.com.
Very good. Well, thank you, Carolina. I hope that we can follow up with another episode a little bit in the future. And I just truly have enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to another informative episode of 5G Talent Talk, brought to you by RCR Wireless News, Telecom Careers, and Broadstaff Talent Solutions. As we advance into the future, we promise to bring you the resources you need to navigate this ever-changing landscape of 5G to help you attract, retain, and engage people in this new world of work. To access the show notes or leave a review, visit broadstaffglobal.com. Until next time.